Hi, everybody. This is Elizabeth Fredrickson, Associate Dean for Instruction.
And Scott Haddock, co-coordinator for faculty professional development.
And we just wanted to share with you some slides and some information that we presented at the All Instruction meeting this week for those of you who couldn't be there at the meeting, beginning with introducing our theme this year for professional development.
Yeah, keeping students on the path, fostering persistence and academic hope.
We wanted to share with you also our Teaching and Learning Day, second annual, coming up on October 25th, and hope that you'll be able to join us there.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. So one of the things that we're trying to sort of relaunch this year, and some of you may have already heard of it before or may already be practicing it, but it's this idea of the four connections of how we can connect with students in order to help them stay on the path and be successful in their classes. And this work comes out of Odessa College's Achieving the Dream work. Just to give a, yeah, go ahead.
Say these are like four particular strategies that the faculty there use consistently that really made a difference for students.
Huge difference, yeah. So to give a little context, Odessa had a really big problem with in-class retention. They had a lot of students who were dropping out, not even because they weren't successful in the course, but they were just sort of disappearing. They had like an 83% in-class retention rate. So one of the questions they asked themselves was, in the classes where instructors are retaining students, what are those instructors doing that really is making a difference? What are they doing that impacts student success? And they kind of dug into their data, and they found it wasn't really about the rigor of the course or the time of day it was offered or the preparedness of the students. What really made a difference was this idea of a common thread of connectivity. So the instructors who were really successful in retaining students were the ones who were connecting with their students. And so our neighbors, Lake Washington, really kind of were inspired by this work, and they took what Odessa did, and they looked at the four major practices that those instructors were using at Odessa, and they kind of rebranded them as the four connections. And we'll go through them a little bit. And
let's take a look at them. I bet a lot of us are doing some of them. We didn't even know it.
That's right. Okay, so you want to talk about the first one?
Sure. The first one is interacting with students by name. So right from the beginning, if you can learn your students' names and begin using them on the first day of class, and of course throughout the quarter. That's the first connection.
Yeah.
The next one.
The next one is scheduling one-on-one meetings at the beginning of the quarter and throughout, so that you actually get to know each student a little bit better.
And the third connection is to check in regularly. So paying attention to the student behavior and track students' progress and empathize with your students. And when a student is struggling, intervene, refer the student to campus resources. So know those resources that they're available to the students.
Yeah, so it's about checking in how they're doing academically, but just checking in how's it going in their personal lives.
What's going on? It's a huge difference.
And then this one's hard.
Yeah, this one always gets me.
Yeah, so practice paradox, but the way I think of it is it's combining high standards with high support. Yeah, so it's like you structure your course very clearly, you communicate your standards and your expectations, but then you're also just kind of a reasonable human being that can, adapt and be a little bit flexible with students.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Keep maintaining some sense of rigor, but at the same time flexible.
Right. So just to kind of look at what happened when Odessa really intentionally practiced these four connections with their students, and they did it collaboratively as faculty. So their in-class retention rate before was about 83%, and afterwards it jumped up to 95%. And that was like across all student demographic groups.
And we could probably talk about just this study for an hour, but there's a lot of information about this that's located at the footer of this slide. But it really is interesting how it didn't. This crossed all demographics.
Yeah. And then, so Lake Washington wanted to see our neighbors, they wanted to see if they could replicate it. They already had pretty good in-class retention rates, but they wanted to kind of look at their pass rates. So not just were students sticking around through the end of the quarter, but were they actually passing the classes? And they got a cohort of faculty together to practice these 4 connections very intentionally. And their pass rates before were about 89% over the pretty good already, and jumped to 92.5. So
That's a pretty good.
it's not bad. And when you look at it, it's like, well, they were already kind of doing okay. So you might go, well, they moved the needle a little bit. But what got really interesting is when they disaggregated their data and they looked at their pass rates by ethnicity. And what they found was that this was actually kind of closing that equity gap. So, all students did a little bit better, but in particular, students of color and kind of traditionally underrepresented student categories, those students did markedly better. Yeah. So, what we did with the group at All Instruction, and you can do it now here, was we just engaged everybody in a little bit of reflection about your own classes and what this might mean for you. And we'll
take some time to kind of think about where you're doing some of this work already.
So we're not going to pause and just sit here and twiddle our thumbs while you do this, but you could pause this video and just kind of write down
some of the things that you do. How do you practice the 4 connections? So just write down or think about your responses to these 2 questions. How you practice the 4 connections already, and I'm sure you already do. And in what ways can you practice them more intentionally? What are some things you can add to make this more intentional?
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want to pause, this would be the time to do it, and then we'll pick up right now. Okay, so you've had a chance to reflect, hopefully.
Yeah. Quick pause on
Yes,
that.
It was.
So just to kind of review, we wanted to share some insights from Lake Washington's faculty and also the things that Scott and I have done about how this plays out in our classroom.
Yeah.
So one of the things that faculty who have done this work have suggested is that it's really great to make little name cards or table tents and have students use those at their tables to kind of help you get to know their name and help them get to know that too.
From a faculty perspective, it's a quick way to take attendance so you don't waste class time also.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then scheduling one-on-one meetings and maybe even making those a requirement. So set it as an expectation right away in the syllabus. And these can get out of control pretty quickly. So I think it's really important to have a focus for the meetings. So review assignments, tests, projects, keeping the meeting short. I'll tell you, I started doing this last year for my online classes. And I created a schedule and students were able to sign up for just a 5-minute check-in a couple times during the quarter. And it was a requirement, and we added points to that. So it was just a small amount of points, but it's amazing what students will do for a small amount of points. And it was a way for students to talk to the instructor live, especially in an online class when students aren't used to doing that. And boy, did I ever notice a difference in the student engagement, not just interacting with the student, but what they did after the phone calls and how they not only engaged with me, but how they engaged online. They also did just the grades increased too. So I keep doing it. And a lot of people say, isn't that a lot of time to invest? But having taught for 12 years, I can tell you that and taught this particular class for most of those years, it actually saved me time, because I didn't have to go into triage mode midway through the quarter for some of the students that I was kind of losing with the complex materials. They were already on top of it from the beginning.
Yeah, you probably caught a lot of things early.
I would
never have known.
A lot of things early. And I got to know who my students are, cool. Which was really neat.
That's really cool. So those regular check-ins, like someone suggested, it's just as simple as stand by the door and greet students when they walk into the classroom. How was your weekend? How was your kid's soccer game? Whatever. But it also can be just, mini quizzes, little surveys in Canvas just to check in. How was the pace of the class? Are you getting what you need to learn? What else can I do to help you? Those sorts of things.
I mean, those quizzes don't even have to be graded. They could just be a self-assessment, right?
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah, 2 questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
super low stakes.
And then this practice paradox. So there are a lot of ways to support students without compromising rigor. And so we love transparency framework and universal design for learning. And, Elizabeth, you've been doing a lot of work around that.
Yeah, and the College Success Course faculty have been doing great work around the transparency framework, which is really just designing an assignment so that you indicate to students what the purpose of the assignment is, what the tasks are you're expecting them to do, and what the criteria is for success. How will it be graded? How do they know they're on the right track? And you can learn a lot more about that on our website, and you can learn more about that at Teaching and Learning Day. We're going to start a whole new cohort of TILT faculty this year, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, this transparency framework and universal design for learning is, you might have heard the phrase tilt, and that's part of this process. So
Yeah.
tilting an assignment.
Yeah, transparency framework is the same thing as TILT.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So there's more resources on the 4 Connections at bit.ly 4 Connections, and you can find a lot more resources about teaching and learning and upcoming events on our website.
You can also follow us on Twitter.
And you can follow us on Twitter.
We have a Twitter feed, folks.
We do.
We've finally entered the 21st century.
You can find our Twitter feed on our website.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. We hope you have a fantastic beginning of the quarter. Check in with us anytime, and we'll hope to talk to you more soon.
You can come into the Teaching and Learning Center.
Snohomish 103. We got lots of resources here, and excited to talk to you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.